Hello there. My name is Yuval Green from Sasquatch Productions. I'm joined by...
Yair Chanakavi, also from Sasquatch Productions.
Now you might be wondering, what the hell is this video? So, I have been working on this rewrite video for about 2 years now, I think? No, just 1 year. Ever since I watched the first season of Dragons the Nine Realms, I've been working on this video. And, trying to see what I would do if I were to write this show. So, what ultimately ended up happening is I put together the rewrite. Then I thought about how I wanted to present this to you guys, because I like to use my channel as a portfolio of my work. So far I've done music and I've done animation, but some of my more recent stuff that I'm a lot more proud of is my writing. So at first I wanted to present my writing in the form of video essays. You know, those classic ones where I'm like talking over like footage and like images and stuff. But we've already seen a million of those, and I wanted to do something a little different. So I decided to tell it to you in a sort of podcast format, where I essentially tell the story to my friend Yair. And that's what we're going to do today. What I did is I took the first season of Dragons the Nine Realms, and yes, it's just the first season. I wrote this back before the trailer for season 2 dropped. And we are going to go over what I changed, what stayed the same. Trust me, a lot changed. The Nine Realms needed to fix hard.
I agree.
Yeah. So, we're just going to talk about it. I'm going to share some images that I've put together, some mock-ups of what it'll look like. And we'll go from there. Okay. So, to start off, the first thing that we see in this rewrite is something similar to what we see in the original show. And now, in the original show opens up with this like storybook opening, sort of like the opening of Shrek, where it's like shows like images of like the first movie and things like that, and like the original writers. That's not the part we're keeping in. I hated that as much as the rest of you, but what we are keeping in is that shot of a meteor falling near Earth. That's gonna stay in. We're going to see it fall towards Earth, but unlike in the original Nine Realms, where it's just a comet that passes over, this is actually just a meteor that straight up lands on Earth. So, the original show takes place in the Cullerson Fissure, which is just like a fissure in the Earth that opens up as a result of the comet flying over. But in my rewrite, this show actually takes place in the Cullerson Crater, which is the crater that the meteor left.
Okay.
So, now we meet our main character, Tom, and he's being flown over to the Cullerson Crater with his mom, Olivia, and she's like trying to like hype him up for this like trip to the crater, but he's very uninterested. He's just like doodling Viking ships in his notebook. Here's another big change I did. A lot of the characters are getting a bit of an overhaul compared to their original version.
They kind of needed that, to be honest.
Yeah, Tom didn't really have much to his personality other than being kind of suicidal in the first season. Like, he kept trying to get himself into the most dangerous situations possible for seemingly no reason.
Who was that one girl that was actually tolerable?
Alex. She's the only one that's staying the same.
Okay, good.
She's the only one that stays as she is, because she's the only fun character in the original. But yeah, we'll get to the other characters' reworks when we get to them. So, as for Tom, and the change that I made with him is that I took an idea that the original toyed with and essentially brought it to the forefront. So in the original, Tom knows that he's descended from Vikings, and they have a bunch of like Viking stuff around the house. I decided to take that interest in Vikings and like appreciation of his heritage and crank that up to 11. This dude is a Viking nerd. Essentially like how I am with dinosaurs, but with Vikings. Like, dude could rattle off a million Viking facts if you asked him.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, they arrive at... the station in the show is called Project Icarus. It's like the base of operations where they're examining the fissure from. It's going to stay Project Icarus for the examination of the crater. So, from there, we see that this is a much smaller operation compared to the one in the original Nine Realms. Because in the original Nine Realms, they said that their budget was something like $1 billion. And yet, they did jack shit throughout the entire show. They sent in a couple of drones in Season 1. That's the most we saw of Project Icarus. That
Epitome of wasted potential.
Yeah. And this, we're actually giving them a reason why they're not doing all that much, is that their budget isn't nearly as big as they'd like. All they have is the drones to examine the crater. And also, like, a lift to, like, carry people into the crater to retrieve the drones if they fall in, for example. But yeah, this crater is, like, gigantic. This thing is, like, 10 miles diameter.
I assume he's going to be getting a lot more interested in this once he figures out that
oh yeah,
Vikings used to ride dragons.
Oh yeah. So on their way to the Project Icarus, Olivia tells Tom that she has a gift for him, but he's only allowed to open it once they get set up at Project Icarus. So now Tom has a reason to actually, like, care about going to Project Icarus. Because she tells him that it's Viking related, what the gift is.
Use what he like.
Yeah. So they go through Project Icarus, they see, like, the drone launch site, they see the elevator to go down to the crater, they see the lounge areas, and then they finally get to the cabins where they're all staying. So they get to Tom and Olivia's cabin, and Olivia finally gives them the okay to open up the present. You know what his present is?
What is it?
The Book of Dragons.
Oh no! I know where this is going.
So in this story, in this rewrite, I wanted to establish that the Book of Dragons, after the events of the Hidden World, has sort of become like a family heirloom in the Haddock family. It's been passed down from generation to generation, even being reprinted a couple times because apparently paper doesn't last over 1,000 years.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So Olivia had inherited the Book of Dragons from her mother, and now she's passing it down to Tom.
Okay.
And he's like, as you'd imagine, absolutely obsessed with the thing. Like, he's so excited to have, like, an actual book written by Vikings in his possession. So he just, like, sits in his room reading through the thing the entire day. Like they got there at, like, 9 a.m. in the morning. By the time we see him finishing up with the book, it's like 6:30.
And I can imagine him memorizing this is going to be very useful later on.
Yes, very. So eventually, as he's going through this, he gets to the page on the Night Fury. Now, I forgot to mention this, but as they're pulling into Project Icarus, Tom sees a little dot flying along the edge of the crater. Now, you can tell that it's moving a little too fast to be a drone, but he's not quite sure what to make of it at that point. But now that he sees the picture of the Night Fury in the Book of Dragons and reads about it, he starts to have a bit of a realization. Maybe this book isn't as fictional as he thought.
Does that get him excited or scared? I must ask. Both? Oh boy.
More excited than scared, but a little of both.
I see.
So
okay.
Now Tom wants to see if he can find this, what he thinks is a Night Fury. if he goes out to look for it. So, another important detail about how Project Icarus works is that every worker is given their own drone that they can use for investigating the crater. And Olivia had just gotten done with her drone like an hour ago. So Tom borrows the drone to go and search for the supposed Night Fury in the crater.
Uh-oh. This is where he gets in trouble, isn't it?
So he sends out the drone. At first he can't find anything. Like, it's got a little camera on it that he can, like, watch through a monitor. But then he sees something flying along the crater just like he saw before. It starts to get closer, but as it's getting closer to the drone, the feed starts to get staticky. Eventually, it looks like it flies like straight into the drone, and then the feed cuts out.
That's a little scary.
Yeah. Tom is confused about what happened, but he doesn't have much time to be confused because Olivia found out where he went.
Uh-oh.
So she takes him back home and he tells her what happened, that he used the drone to look at the crater, and that it got lost in the crater. And she's like, dang it, now we'll have to send someone in later to get it. We'll have to send someone in tomorrow morning. It's getting late. But then Tom gets the bright idea to go down and find the drone himself. Because he thinks where the drone was where the Night Fury was. If I go down there, I might find the Night Fury.
Oh no. Oh no. Okay.
So he goes down with a flashlight. He does end up finding the drone. And from looking around, he deduces that the drone must have hit a loose gravel vein. And like knocked it loose and caused a little like gravalanche, I guess. So, but then as he looks into the gravalanche, he sees it, the dragon that was in the feed. But it's like stuck in the gravel, like it's like out cold. But it doesn't quite look like a Night Fury, but I'll show you what he actually sees in just a little bit. So he sees this dragon. He's like both amazed that he's like found this proof that these creatures exist, that these creatures that had a connection with the Vikings that he cares so much about, but also he's confused because this doesn't look like a Night Fury. I mean, it looks similar, but there's too many little differences for this to be a Night Fury. So then he sees that like its wings are like pinned under the gravel, and he starts to realize the last thing he saw on the drone camera was this dragon flying straight into it. The drone must have, and he realizes the drone must have knocked this dragon off course and into the gravel. And he starts to realize, oh, it's my fault that he's in there. So he decides to try and dig it out. And as he's digging it out, it starts to wake up.
Uh-oh. Are we getting another toothless meeting hiccup type of thing?
A little bit. That's what I'm hearkening back to with that moment. Like, at first, like, the dragon sees what he's doing, and like, he tries to reach for the gravel again, but he's, like, it doesn't, like, it snarls at him. But then as he realizes what he's trying to do, it, like, relaxes a little and lets him do his thing. Eventually, he gets it loose. He manages to move enough of the gravel that the dragon is able to get out of the gravel on its own. And this is what the dragon looks like.
Let me see. Ooh, okay.
Yeah, quite different from a normal Night Fury, huh?
Yeah, the purple wings. It definitely has the resemblance. I do often, when I see purple on a dragon, I do often think of lightning, so that was a good addition to it as well.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my redesign of this dragon.
It
Now,
looks
the
pretty
reason why
good.
I'm not calling it, there's a reason why I'm not calling it Thunder, and I'll get to that reason when we get to Tom actually naming it. So, the first episode ends with this dragon giving Tom a look like he's not quite sure what to make of this kid, and then it flies off. And I should mention, I am keeping the same 6 episodes that the original Nine Realms had.
But you're just changing them.
I'm giving them enough because I feel like the story in the show in season 1 has the potential to be really good, but I feel like it was too derivative of the wrong things.
It's sort of like you had the right direction,
Yeah.
but everything you did in that direction was incorrect.
Yeah, sort of. The idea is they were trying there's a right and wrong way to call on nostalgia, in my opinion. And I feel like the show tried to do it in the wrong ways.
All right, and you're trying to basically take the same thing they did right and then change all the wrongs, basically.
Yes.
I feel like you can do.
I do think that a story of the dragons being rediscovered in the modern day can work, but the approach they took to it was kind of you know.
Well, knowing how good you are at writing, I think this is going to turn out really good. Can't wait to hear the rest.
That's just the first episode so far out of 6.
Mm-hmm.
So, episode 2. Tom picks up right where we left off. Tom gets back to the elevator after meeting this dragon. And he's freaking out. He's like, "Oh my god, I just made this massive discovery. I need to try and do something with this probably." And as he gets up to the he's on the elevator and he reaches back to the top of the crater, he runs right into Phil Baker, the chief of security at Project Icarus.
Right.
So don't mind that. No, there was a noise. I don't know what caused it. It doesn't matter. So he takes Tom back home. And Olivia is rightfully upset that he went into the crater both on his own and in the middle of the night.
Rightfully.
Yeah, but she is glad that he made it home safe. So
So
what?
So she gives them a the type of scene where it's like, "Oh my god, I'm so glad you're back, but you're grounded." That type of thing.
Sort of. What happens is that Mr. Baker tells Olivia that they're setting up a kids' lounge for the kids of the workers to spend the day. And after the stunt Tom just pulled, his attendance is mandatory.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Yeah. Obviously, Tom's not exactly thrilled to meet all these new kids. He's kind of introverted.
I know how that feels.
Oh yeah, me too. So the next day, Olivia brings him to the kids' lounge, and this is where we meet the other kids, June, D'Angelo, and Alex. Now, we've already talked about the fact that Alex is going to stay the exact same because she is a queen and we love her.
Mm-hmm.
But June and D'Angelo are getting some pretty major reworks to their characters. Or at least major in the case of June. So, because in the original, June is just an astrology nut. Obsessed with everything fairy tales. And myths and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
She's literally introduced reading tarot cards. So, I decided to change it. Whereas I went bigger with Tom's interest in the Vikings, I decided to go smaller with June's mythology obsession. June's the type of girl that always... June is a girl with a very overactive imagination. She always believed that dragons are real, and she wants to prove to people that they are real, so that they take her seriously.
Oh, I know where this is going. Okay.
Yeah. So we get to meet them. Like, they have their conversation to introduce themselves, and like we get some fun like character interactions between the three side characters. We get to see June trying to convince D'Angelo that the dragons are real, and D'Angelo just isn't buying it.
Well, he'll buy it sooner or
Yeah.
later.
By the way, D'Angelo is the chief of security's son. D'Angelo Baker is his name.
Alright.
Yeah. But I'm just going to call him D'Angelo. So, D'Angelo, his change is a lot simpler, and it's one that was, like, hinted at. That they did something kind of like that in the original, in, like, later seasons. The idea is that, in this version, Tom really idolizes his father and wants to grow up to be just like him. But at the same time, like, there are things that he does that his father would never do. And there are things his father does that he would never do.
So they're different.
But he's trying to, like, bridge that gap. But he essentially wants to be like his dad when he grows up. That's the idea.
Mm-hmm.
So they're having this conversation. Meanwhile, Tom is like looking through the book, trying to see if he can find the dragon species that he saw last night, and he still can't find it. The closest thing that he finds is the Night Fury and Light Fury pages.
Oh, okay.
But then he reads about these dragons' high intelligence. These dragons were, like, borderline sentient at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
And he thinks about, like, wait a minute. Maybe this new dragon is like an evolutionary descendant or something. And for the record, the dragons in this show, I tried to make them look more like the species from the original series. Because realistically, it's only been 1,000 years. That is extremely fast for evolution this drastic to take place.
Yeah, that makes sense. That was a good change.
Yeah, I changed their designs a little to look more like the dragons from the old series. So,
now, is it like almost exact, or is it just like slight changes?
They have features that are a lot more reminiscent of the older species, of the previous species,
than in the original Nine Realms.
Yeah. So now we get to the reason why I included the scene of him going to the kids' lounge. In this lounge, there is a catering service, and where, like, the kids can, like, order, like, meals to enjoy while they're in the kids' lounge.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the meals that the kids can order is fish sticks. Now, Tom, at this point, has memorized the page on the Night Fury, and he knows these guys are strict piscivores.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets like a bunch of fish sticks, stuffs them in his bag, and waits till the end of the day, where he goes out to the crater again.
Oh, he's gonna get in trouble for feeding the dragon.
And he goes to the gravel vein that he found the dragon at earlier, but the dragon doesn't look like it's there. But what is there is an opening to a cave. The gravel fell out and like revealed a cave entrance. Is the idea.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes into the cave, and he looks around and he finds scales on the ground, little black scales. And that's how he knows, okay, yeah, the dragon's been here. And soon he's proven right when the dragon flies in and snarls at him.
Oh.
But then Tom pulls out some of the fish sticks from his bag and offers them to the dragon. And the dragon, he's sort of hesitant at first to get near him. But eventually he gets close, takes a sniff of the fish sticks in Tom's hand, and then yanks the bag out of his other hand because the smell is stronger from there.
Oh my god, it's just like me with food!
Yes. And he's just like ripping into Tom's bag, like fishing out any fish sticks he can find.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Dragon likes food.
And like Tom tries to like get close and touch him, but as he's reaching for him, he gets like a little jolt of electricity that flies from the dragon's body into his hand. Essentially like the worst static shock of your life.
Oh, this isn't just like anything light.
No, it's
Like a light shock.
No, it's electricity.
So this is like a really painful one that he took here.
It's just particularly nasty. It's not necessarily painful.
Okay.
Like all static shocks are painful to an extent.
Right. I've never got static shock before, so
Really?
No, I haven't. I thought it was dependent on like the voltage or something. So like it could be anything from like a slight pinch to very painful is what I thought.
But no, it's not. That's not really how static shocks work. You build up static energy, and static energy builds up in an object, and then when you get close to it, the energy jumps from the object to you.
Oh.
That's what creates the shock.
Okay, so it's never been anything light, basically.
No,
I see. Okay, my bad.
it's okay. So, Tom gets jolted, and he decides, okay, maybe if I cater to its curiosity, because he did read that the Night Fury is a very curious creature. So he starts drawing this dragon in his notebook.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and he keeps the remaining fish sticks near him. So the dragon will eventually come to him to get the rest of the fish sticks. So the dragon eventually does that, gets close, takes the fish sticks, but then sees that Tom is drawing something, and it's curious. And Tom's like, gotcha. So then he shows the dragon the drawing that he made of it, and it's confused for a moment, but then it takes a sniff and starts snarling angrily at the picture because he can't detect the smell of another of his kind on the page.
Oh.
It takes Tom a moment to realize what's going on, but in that moment, the dragon uses a plasma blast to erase the paper.
Oh. Oh, okay. He did not. He took that very personally.
Yeah, the idea is that this dragon is like extremely distrusting of anything that isn't its own species until he starts to get to know Tom. So, I had a really fun idea when it comes to the design of the original dragons in this show. I figured, so they haven't really addressed the name Dragons the Nine Realms in the show, other than just calling the different section of the hidden world the realms.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I'll be honest, the way they did it is really freaking stupid. So I decided to change it. Instead of making it like a plot relevant detail, I decided to make it a thematic detail. Each of the dragons in this show that isn't a returning dragon from the previous series is based on one of the 9 realms of Norse mythology.
Oh.
So, for example, with redesigned Thunder here, I based him on Asgard.
Oh, I like where this is going.
And the best example of how this inspiration comes in is with his personality. because the Aesir are kind of like warmongering, like they're warmongers essentially. Like they really like fighting things. They're sort of like the Saiyans from Dragon Ball.
I definitely like where this is going.
Yeah, so Thunder here, he has like inherited that sort of like fighty attitude that his species believe supposedly has. But he also has he's also a little bit tricksy. A little sort of like the only Aesir god that isn't actually Aesir, Loki.
Whoa.
So he's a bit of a troll, as evidenced by the bag thing.
Yep.
So So Tom realizes, oh wait, he got mad at the paper, and this guy has been like super aggressive. Maybe if I show him that we're like fighting on the same side, maybe he'll warm up to me more. Like now he's just like staring at like the freaking burned out notebook, like staring at it angrily, like, what the fuck is this? And then like it looks back up at Tom, like, what is this thing you've brought before me? And then Tom like thinks quick and starts stomping on what's left of the notebook, like he's trying to fight it or something.
That's clever. Does it work though?
It does. It does work. The dragon warms up to it, and I almost leaked something that I'm about to reveal in just a moment. So, this dragon has now like started to warm up to Tom, and it gets close. Tom tries to touch it again, but it like pulls back a little, and then he thinks back to a specific image that we saw in the Book of Dragons. It's an image that any fan of this franchise knows really well.
Mm-hmm.
He tries to reach out towards the dragon again, but this time he looks away. And the dragon ultimately presses his nose into the outstretched hand. But whereas Toothless flew away after Hiccup looked back when he did this, when Tom looks back, this dragon smirks at him and gives him another shock.
It's a total twist.
Yeah. Like I said,
it's like
this dragon's a troll.
It's trolling the audience. It's trolling the audience. It's making them think we're going to redo the thing.
That's the right way to do a nostalgic tie-in.
Yeah,
you take what's been established and you put a fun twist on it.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good.
So then Tom decides to come up with a name for this dragon. And he thinks about calling it Thunder before realizing that that's a really stupid name. Which the fandom kind of agrees with, as far as I know.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the name that he ends up giving this dragon ultimately. He ends up calling it Thor.
Thor, okay, that's already a better name.
Because, like, let's be honest, a Viking-obsessed teenage boy, is absolutely going to name this hyper-aggressive electric dragon after the Norse god of thunder.
Yeah, he wouldn't call it anything else.
Yeah. And let's be honest, Thor is a much better name than Thunder for an electric dragon.
Yeah, exactly. The same way you would name any, like, dinosaur character Godzilla.
Yeah. I'd name it after other dinosaur characters.
Yeah.
I name any Godzilla-looking characters after Godzilla.
Godzilla, yeah.
So now Tom looks at the time and realizes, oh shit, I gotta get back home before Mom gets mad. Then he starts to like go back out of the crater. But like the crater has like all sorts of like ridges in it that Tom has to like climb to get to and from the cave. But on this trip back, he slips and starts to fall back. But as he's falling, Thor flies in and catches him on his back.
Hmm.
And this is where we get the first flight sequence.
Oh boy, that's got to be scary.
A little ride. Now, I created a mock-up of one particular shot from this from this flight. I made a mock-up of it in SFM. I'm sending it here. Let's see how long it takes to send. Oh, that's gonna take a bit. I guess in the meantime, while that's loading, I guess I'll tell you the rest of the episode.
Alright.
So, after this first flight, Thor sets Tom down next to the elevator and then flies back to the cave. Tom goes back to his house and immediately starts writing in the page for Thor. He doesn't have a name for the species yet, but he's going to workshop it. But as he gets ready to put the page into the back of the book, because obviously when you add a page to a document, you add it at the back. So he goes to look at the book, but then he sees that under the back cover, on the inside, there are some pages tucked into the cover. As though there were pages that the authors of this book didn't want people to see.
And what are in those pages?
That I'm going to leave a mystery until the season finale. But Tom does get a bit of a glimpse into what's behind the cover. But he only gets a glimpse because right as he's about to look, Olivia comes home and he has to run down and greet her. Yeah, and by the way, these first two episodes are a two-parter. And I decided that every episode that introduces a new dragon, like a new dragon, is going to be named after the realm that dragon is based on.
Oh, okay.
So this two-parter is named Asgard Parts 1 and 2.
Right.
And the mock-up is 1/3 of the way done. It's going to take a bit to load it, so I guess in the meantime, I'll get started with episode 3.
Alright.
So, episode 3. So, before we get started with episode 3, let me just say, episodes 3, 4, and 5, I'm going to try and keep the structure of the original episodes the same. And only change, minor details. That'll, match up the story with the two-parter that I started it with. B, make the characters fun to watch. And C, build to a greater mystery that expands on what's in those hidden pages.
Alright.
So, episode 3 starts with Tom back at the kids' lounge. So he's continuing to write in the page for Thor in the Book of Dragons. But as he's working on it, June suddenly runs up, sees the book, and sees the dragons in the pages of the book, and she starts getting excited.
Naturally.
So she's running around the lounge, holding up the book, shouting, "Oh my god, this is the proof I've been waiting for so long." And then Tom's like, "Please don't damage it. It's a family heirloom."
You'd probably be running after it, asking for it back.
Yeah. Meanwhile, D'Angelo and Alex are still not buying it. Dude, it's just a book. There have been tons of books that have been written as though they're documenting existing dragons. This one really isn't as special. You still have no grounds to stand on to say the dragons are real.
I'm imagining that there's a dragon jump scare in 3.
Nope.
Oh, not yet. All right.
No dragon jump scare here. So, like, June storms out of the room, like, upset. And then Tom, despite being an introvert, he does, like, care about people, like, about the people around him. Like, he doesn't like seeing people upset.
Mm-hmm.
And so he goes out after June, and she tells him, like, I just want people to take this possibility seriously. I just want them to take me seriously. And then Tom says, I might have something that might help you prove that.
I like where this is going.
She's immediately on board. Because, like, I mean, who wouldn't be in that situation? So, he takes her down into the cave. And before we get to that, the mock-up of the flight sequence is almost finished.
About time.
I'm gonna put up the mock-up in the video right now over what we're talking about right here.
All right.
So go ahead and just upload the file. You're gonna have to click on it.
All right. Upload is in slow sequence.
Really? How slow is it for you?
It's already almost done.
Oh. Okay, good.
Like, decently slow.
And again, it's 420 megabytes. It's 420 megabytes. Oh my goodness.
Oh my! Of course you did.
That's my complete accident. That just happened.
That just proves the force is with you, just naturally.
The memes are strong with this one.
Oh my god!
Okay,
I am not. Yeah, I watched it like 3 times already.
Okay, so what do you think of that shot?
It looks pretty good. I like the spinning at the end.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a visual that we haven't really had quite like this, at least, in the Dragon franchise. Like, sure, we've had like moments of like Hiccup and Toothless spinning up into the air, but we've never had them like going in the circle like that before, and then up into the air like that.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool thing. Yeah. It's like a vortex.
Yeah, that's kind of the visual I wanted to create here.
He looks super free when he's doing that too. Like when the spin, like he's happy.
Yeah.
Like something.
And that's the idea.
It's good that to emulate that through just the patterns of the flight. Like you can convey to the audience what emotions is being projected.
Yeah. So Tom takes June into the cave and ends up like running into Thor again. And June is losing her shit, understandably. Like, she's like, oh my god, I was right this whole time. There's a dragon in front of me. And she's like fangirling so hard right now. And Thor is kind of not a fan of how hard she's coming on to him, for lack of a better term. But Tom offers to give June a ride on Thor with him, and this is in the original show. This is where the episode recreates the romantic flight sequence from the first movie. You know, the scene where Hiccup and Astrid are flying through the clouds on Toothless.
Mm-hmm.
Also known as one of the greatest scenes an animated film has ever had.
Yeah. I love that scene. It is so good. The music takes me back as well.
Yeah. But but in this rewrite, that's not the part of the scene that I'm adapting. That's not the part of the scene I'm like calling back to in this moment. Instead, I'm calling back to the scene right before it, where where Toothless is trying to scare Astrid. Like,
oh no!
flying super recklessly, but But whereas Tom is kind of like freaking out, June just is just like on cloud nine, like, oh my god, I'm riding a dragon. This is incredible.
That is a twist on top of a twist.
Yeah.
I love that.
But then, as they're flying, Tom suddenly notices that they're about to fly straight into the middle of the crater.
Uh-oh.
Like, Tom tries to steer Thor, like, out of the way, but Thor doesn't budge. And while the kids expected to go splat on the ground, instead, they fly into a hole. There was a hole there that is just wide enough for Thor to fly through, but not wide enough that it can be seen from the edge of the crater.
Because it's far down.
Yes. So they dive. So Thor flies deeper into the hole, and he comes out on the other side in the hidden world. Now, in the original show, they introduced the hidden world right after the first flight with Tom and Thunder. Whereas here, I think having Thor bring them to it after messing with them I feel like it's a testament to his character. Like, he's willing to fuck with them, but whatever. He's just going with it at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's accepted the fact that these things are intruding on his turf, essentially, and he's just like, okay, whatever. I'll just do whatever I want at this point. So he goes down into the hidden world, and both Tom and June are like geeking out, but for completely different reasons. June is like, oh my god, there's more! Oh my god, there's so many more! Meanwhile, Tom is out here like me watching the Super Mario Brothers movie, like, oh, I recognize that one, and that one, and that one.
That's so good. I love. This is so funny. At so many levels.
And like he's pointing out like, there's a Timberjack. Ooh, whispering death. Oh, look, a pot of changelings. Wonder why I was able to spot those. So eventually, they get a little distracted because they suddenly get attacked by another new dragon. However, whereas in the original show, it was just like a flock of these that was just attacking them. In this, it's just one. The dragon that confronts them here is a Gembreaker. Now, in the original show, these looked like super weird. Like, they had like beetle wings and like a straight gem horn. So the main thing I did with the redesign of them is I decided to make it more like realistic in terms of its design details. So I just sent the image of it to you.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. What was it called again?
Gembreaker.
Gembreaker. Let me look up the original real quick.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah, this does look a lot more realistic. I can see that.
Yeah. And again, the idea is that this is supposed to be like a relative of like Gronkles and Hot Purples.
The brutes, the boulder class.
Yes. But I'm sorry. Again, evolution this drastic does not happen over the course of 1,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just not this fast. Like, realistically, it would be more something like this, where it's sort of like an in-between between looking like a Gronkle / Hot Purple and what the Gembreakers look like in the original show.
Alright.
So, in this, it's just one Gembreaker And I want to establish that the Gembreakers are actually just really strong fighters. Like, they will kick some serious ass if they have to.
And how do they fight other than with their horn? Or is it
they're mostly like physical, like grapplers and like they do a lot of charging with those. They do a lot of goring with that horn.
Oh.
But they also have this like they're boulder classes, so and they're also relatives of Gronkles, so they eat minerals. There's a lot of like crystal formations in the hidden world. We saw a lot of it in the movie.
And they feed off of that.
And they store it in their bodies, and it heats up, and they can lob it like a projectile in an attack that I'm going to go ahead and call a Geode Blast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because in the original, they called this attack the Loogie Bomb. God damn it.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Geode Blast is an infinitely better name. It was right there.
And they went with Loogie Bomb.
What the hell? I genuinely don't know who's to blame for what happened with this show. But like,
they were on.
Oh my god.
What was the other thing called? Like, you're on Cheeto Dust. What were they on?
They were on Dorito Powder.
Dorito, that's what I was looking for. They were whoever made that name was on Dorito Powder that day.
Yeah. For the viewers who don't understand what the hell we're talking about, we have these terms between in our friend group in the Senate, as we call ourselves, where if someone's high on Cheeto Dust, they're like getting like a steady stream of really cool creative ideas. Whereas the opposite of that, where someone gets really bad creative ideas, we call that being high on Dorito Powder.
I'm trying to hold back my laughter throughout the entirety of you saying that.
No, it's cool, man. It's funny. It's supposed to be.
Yeah, no. Oh my god, this is priceless. Yeah. Okay, so, try to continue.
Back to the episode. So, Thor is trying to fight the Gembreakers, and he's fighting the Gembreaker, but he's having trouble fighting this thing on even ground. So he tries to take off, but this Gembreaker is smart. I want to establish that. Like, it uses its Geode Blast to hit Thor in the wing to knock him out of the air.
Oh.
But as it does that, it hits the, like, cliff shelf, this, like, rock shelf that they're standing on. And it starts to crack. Tom and Thor are able to make it safety, but June ends up falling into the water below. Now, this is a sort of kids show, I guess. So she survives the fall.
Mm-hmm.
And here's where we get to the main thing that the original show did with this moment. This is when we introduced the Mist Twister. In the original, June gets stuck in a hole in the ground. And she has to use this dragon, and she has to befriend this Mist Twister in order to get back out. Now, this is so first of all, let me show you what I did with the Mist Twister. Mist Twister got the most drastic redesign out of the dragons.
I don't think the purple was there before. Interesting.
No, it was yellow before.
And then,
the issue is that the yellow does not work that well with the red and blue. Sure, they're primary colors, but it just looks garish.
And you turned them from, the normal type dragon into wyverns, where you put the wings on your arms.
Yeah, because if you look at the original show, all of them, every single new dragon is a 6-legged dragon.
So you want to make this one a
I wanted to
wyvern.
diversify it a little bit and have a 4-limbed dragon,
All right.
also known as a wyvern. And I also decided to make it a double reference to previous dragon species. So, what does the heads remind you? What does the shape of the heads remind you of? Which dragon does it remind you of?
The monstrous nightmare mostly.
Yeah, that's the first one. The monstrous nightmare is the inspiration for the shape of the face. But look at the blue head. What do those pouches on the bottom remind you of?
Pouches on the bottom.
On the jaw.
What's that one that spews the scalding water?
The Scaldron. Yes, it's a
Scaldron.
Yes, when it fills its mouth up with water and that sac fills up before it's ready to spray. And by the way, in the original show, the left head spits fire, the right head spits ice. I decided to change it slightly. The red head still breathes fire, but the blue head instead breathes freezing water.
Oh, freezing water.
That way it can link its heads together something like this a little bit, and fire both at once and turn it into a mist breath.
Ooh, that would look.
In the original, they just link their heads together and then breathe the mist out separately, like this. I'm probably gonna put a little bit of footage up in the video to show what I'm talking about. It just looks weird. I thought they were gonna mix their breaths together. I thought it was gonna do what I did with it, where they mix their breaths to create the mist. But nope, they just make the mist in the original.
They should have went with that, because then that would have also been the zipperback.
Yeah, and also it's just a cool little evolutionary feature, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So now we get to the part where June's actually trying to befriend the Mist Twister. Now, in the original, she's trying to be respectful to it, but it's just fucking with her, just messing with her. It's just messing with her, playing around with her, until she tries to entertain both heads at once. In this, I changed it a little. In this, she is fangirling to the extreme that she's this close to a dragon that looks like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the dragon is really just like Thor. This Mist Twister is put off by how hard she's fangirling.
Uh-oh.
And after a moment of geeking out, she realizes, wait, the dragons don't like it when I freak out this much. It might help to calm down a little. So she tries, and at first she's failing to hold it together. I was like, oh my god, it's a dragon, and it's this close. But eventually she manages to get a hold of it after hearing that the Gembreaker has started to go after Tom as well.
Oh.
Because she can hear what's going on in the cliff above. The drop wasn't that far. And she calms down, collects herself, and bows to the Mist Twister as it comes back out of the water. I should mention, Mist Twister is a Titan class dragon.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It comes out of the water, and it's oh, you're finally gonna give me the respect I deserve? Okay, I guess I'll do the same for you.
Oh, that's nice. That's real nice.
Yeah. So then the dragon carries June back up to the fight, and I haven't decided on if I'm gonna keep the name that she uses in the original, or if it's gonna be a different name, because I don't know if keeping the name Wu and Wei matches with this version of June. Because in the original, the name Wu and Wei comes from her mythology obsession. I don't know if I'm gonna keep the name. Let us know in the comments if if there's a better name that we could give this dragon in this version of the show. Now, the best name will get pinned in the comments. So now this Mist Twister ends up helping June out of the lake, and joins Thor in fighting off the Gembreaker. So they fight it off just long enough that they're able to fly out of the hidden world. And as they're flying away, Tom looks back and sees something interesting that we're going to pick up on later. He sees the Gembreaker tries to pursue them. And as it tries to take off, one of its wings like cramps up and it falls back to the ground.
Ooh. And like Toothless trying to fly without the second part of his tail.
Sort of, except a little more egregious.
What does that mean? It's
a little more of a significant injury.
Mm.
Sure, don't get me wrong. Toothless's tail injury was pretty significant. Like, he couldn't fly without it. But this Gembreaker, like, it's almost like its got a serious injury on its wing. But we're gonna pick on that in the next episode. So for now, Thor and the Mist Twister. Why did I call him Thunder? It's Thor, not Thunder. Thor and the Mist Twister take June and Tom back to the elevator to Project Icarus. And June thanks him for validating her beliefs. And then they head back home for the night. So, what's interesting is So first of all, I should mention this version of the Mist Twister was based on Niflheim, the realm of mist in Norse mythology. Which, let's be honest, that fits a little too well.
Yeah, makes sense.
So, and yes, this episode is also named Niflheim. Next we got episode 4, Jotunheim. And this is the episode where in the original, this is the episode where they like bring D'Angelo down to have a look at the injured Gembreaker with his like veterinary knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And they do something similar to that in this, but instead of like just randomly finding this injured Gembreaker, it's the same Gembreaker that attacked them in the last episode. So Tom, the next morning, Tom brings June back down to the hidden world and shows her what he saw. That they see other Gembreakers just relaxing, grazing on crystals, and then they see the Gembreaker from yesterday trying to take off, having the wing like cramp up like that, falling back down, and then bashing into a crystal in anger. So here's where something really interesting comes in, because the Gembreaker and the Mist Twister are in the Book of Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
There is no way that these two species would have evolved in between the time period that there was no way that these kinds of species would evolve like this, like in less than 1,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
If you just look at like Daspletosaurus and T-Rex, Daspletosaurus is considered the closest like evolutionary ancestor of the T-Rex. Let me get a picture of him real quick. Daspletosaurus. Okay, here's a picture of here's a picture of the Daspletosaurus skeleton.
Mm-hmm.
And
already looks similar to a T-Rex.
And here's a picture of a Tyrannosaurus skeleton. Look how similar those are.
Yeah, those are very similar.
Yeah, and these two species are millions of years apart. There is no way in hell that these dragons did not exist during Hiccup's time.
Wow, I see your point.
Yeah. So now, so June presents the idea that maybe they could get D'Angelo in on this because he's really good at, he's like really knowledgeable at like veterinary stuff in general, just medicinal stuff in general, because he had to learn that if he wants to be the chief of security.
Mm-hmm.
So they talk to D'Angelo, explain the situation, and they try to get him to go down into the They try to go down into the crater with them. And he says, "Not a good idea. My dad wouldn't do that. Wouldn't fall through this." And then June does something really interesting. She plays with it and said, "Okay, but what would D'Angelo do?"
See, yeah, this is where the character development sells in.
Mm-hmm. The idea is I want to give them, like, over the course of this rewrite, not necessarily of just this season, like over this course of this rewritten version of the Nine Realms, I want to have them have like character arcs where they like go over like try to overcome their like selfish desires or something like that. Like D'Angelo ends up like realizing that maybe he doesn't need to be exactly like his father, and this is the first step to that. So D'Angelo agrees to come down, and they start reading up on. They start like looking into the Book of Dragons to see if there's anything they can do to calm the Genbreaker down, and then they see that Dragon Nip is a really good way to calm any dragon down, especially relatives of Gronkles. So, so here's a fun little world building detail that I wanted to add in here. Dragon Nip is just in this version of like this world. Dragon Nip is just a naturally occurring weed in this world. So it's like,
oh really?
Yeah, that's how these kids know about it, and it's how they're able to acquire some.
Oh, so it's just called Dragon Nip without people knowing the existence of dragons?
It's been called Dragon Nip for over 1,000 years.
I see. Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So they get the Dragon Nip, and like D'Angelo ends up being the one to calm down the Genbreaker. And then he gets a look at the wing, and he sees, oh, somehow this wing got completely dislocated at the shoulder.
Ah, he's an expert on that.
Yeah, so he gives the Genbreaker some more Dragon Nip in case it freaks out, and he pushes the joint back into place. Because that's how you deal with a dislocated shoulder. You relocate it back into place.
Mm-hmm.
The Genbreaker gets mad for a moment because that fucking hurts.
Yeah, makes sense.
But then after it realizes, oh shit, it doesn't hurt to move my wing anymore, it like gets super friendly with D'Angelo. Like, oh my, like a puppy fawning over their owner.
So what I'm getting here is Tom has the God dang it, what's the first dragon called? You named him Thor.
Yeah, he hasn't come up with a species name for it, but he will by the end of the season.
Okay, so he has Thor, June has the Mist Twister.
Yep.
And D'Angelo has the Genbreaker.
Yes. And I decided to keep the original name for the Genbreaker, Plowhorn, because honestly, a kid like this would absolutely come up with a name like that for Genbreaker. But the episode ends on a really interesting cliffhanger. So, Plowhorn stretches out the wing that was dislocated, and then the group sees that there's a big-ass scorch mark on it.
Oh, he got that dislocation in a fight, didn't he?
Yes, but a fight with what?
Mm.
Not to mention, dragons are naturally super resistant to fire on their scales.
Yeah, so it had to have been.
Whatever did this has fire hot enough to burn dragon scales, and it can fire a projectile that burns that hard enough to dislocate a bone.
Oh my god.
Whatever this dragon is, it's dangerous, and they need to find out what it is.
Rose, that could be not just dangerous to other dragons, dangerous to humanity, right?
Yeah, but we'll get to that in the season finale.
Oh boy. See, now it's building suspense.
Yeah. So, that's where episode 4, Jotunheim, ends. And now we get up into episode 5, Vanaheim Part 1. Now, normally, in a normal show's structure, they would have the episode, like, Vanaheim Part 1 and then Vanaheim Part 2 immediately after. But, that's not what I'm doing this time. We're going to have just Vanaheim Part 1 in this season. And I'm going to save Vanaheim Part 2 for potential Season 2. Because there's more that I'd want to do with the Featherhides. Which are based on the realm Vanaheim. Which are...
I've seen that before. Oh, sorry.
So, from there... So this episode picks up right where we left off with the last one. The group coming back to Icarus, discussing the scorch mark. Like, Tom goes over all of the species that he knows, and like nothing comes to mind that could do this. Like, there are some that can match the heat that he's thinking of, but none that can. But the ones that match the heat can't match the force that this projectile would have to put out. And vice versa. The ones that have the force don't have the heat.
So which has both?
We'll get to that. For now, D'Angelo poses a question. Since the three of them are already into this, and there's only one other kid in the group, there's only one other kid at Icarus, maybe it would feel right to involve her too. It would feel really awkward to leave her out of this. And June agrees, but Tom is kind of apprehensive. Like, maybe it's not a good idea to get this many people in on this, because who knows what would happen if the adults get wind of these dragons.
Yep.
But they ultimately end up convincing him that it would be a good idea. So later that day, they talk to Alex and convince her to come with them into the crater. Although she is extremely reluctant to go into the crater. She hates being outside in general because she's afraid for her safety.
Yeah, I see.
But we'll get into why that is later. So they go down into the crater, and like as they're about to head off towards the cave, Alex starts to chicken out and prepares to like go back. But as she turns around, here comes that dragon jump scare.
I knew it. There had to be one.
Thor is right behind her. Like, she turns around and boom, Thor's in her face. And
this is
obviously
priceless.
she is freaking out, but not in the same way as June was. June was freaking out because she was excited. Alex is freaking out because she's terrified. So Alex ends up like going back up to Icarus, and the group ends up following her back to their house. And Thor just like looks up at them like going back up, and shrugs like, "All right, I'm gonna head out then." The idea is that like Thor at this point is like starting to like get used to the steady stream of humans invading his turf.
Mm.
The
Jesus
steadily
Christ, he's
increasing group
excited.
of humans. Like, I guess this is my life now. I guess these little meat bags are just here now. I guess.
Whatever.
And he just walks
Nothing
away.
I can do.
And he just walks away. But
I like this
as he
part.
walks away, we see something headed back towards Icarus. But we don't really see it. What we do see is a little distortion in the air moving towards Icarus.
Oh, you mean like that? Kind of like what Nargacuga looks like when it goes invisible. That one Nargacuga.
Not quite like Lucent Nargacuga. Imagine like it's a little spot where imagine if it looks a little bit like. What's a good example of what it looks like?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of one too.
It sort of looks like in that one particular spot that's like moving through the air. It's like that one specific part is like shot on a fisheye lens. You know those ones where it's like like really close to the face and it's like really, or it looks like super weird.
Yeah,
Like that meme of what like anime characters see when they're like an inch from each other's faces. Right? So that's what it looks like. That's what the distortion looks like. So then they get to Alex's house, and Alex's mom end up letting them in because like, oh my god, thank God she's made some friends. Because if Tom was an introvert, like you thought Tom was an introvert, Alex is the introvert.
introvert incarnate.
Yes. So, like, they tried to talk to Alex about maybe going back out. But as they're talking, it sounds like there's a bit of an echo in the room. They stop for a moment and look around. And suddenly, all they see is two big yellow eyes floating in the middle of the doorway.
I watched a video on how terrifying invisibility would actually be if it were real.
Yeah.
Imagining this with that.
Like, the group screams and backs away, and the eyes back away and replicate their scream.
Oh. Wait, what? What?
This is the Featherhide.
The Featherhide. I believe I remember that name.
It has two abilities. The first is invisibility, and the second
Oh, I see.
is the ability to mimic sounds it hears.
Oh, I see.
Now, in the original show, they use this for like comedic effect, like where it's like mimicking the sound of a microwave beeping. And just like messing with everyone. But here I decided to like turn up the creepy with this one. Like the idea is it's scary until you realize what it looks like.
Ah.
Because right now all they see is two floating yellow eyes. And
Is it like... Oh, you go first?
like, I'm gonna show you the Featherhide design after like it gets revealed in the story, because it's in the episode, because it takes a while before we actually see the Featherhide properly.
Right.
So the Featherhide runs off into the corners of the house, like turning completely, like closing its eyes and turning completely invisible, and we see that distortion again as it leaves. It's now hiding somewhere in the house, and they have no idea where. June and D'Angelo leave the room to try and find it. Meanwhile, Tom stays with Alex, because at this point, he's curious. Why is she so scared of going outside?
Yeah,
So
I'm
he
sure
asks her
everyone.
about it. And this is actually the one scene where I'm like fully keeping from the original show and putting it into this because it's the one good scene in the first season.
Right?
And it's a scene where we find out that Alex, she went outside once, and one day this big ass dog followed her home, and everyone and like her family told her, "Oh, look, it followed you. You should pet it." She tried to pet it, and then it bit her hand.
Ooh.
From that day, she was afraid to go outside because she believes that, okay, if a dog would do that to me, there's no way it's safe outside.
Mm.
But then Tom tells her, look, there are some scary things outside, but there's also a lot of beauty outside that you're gonna miss if you only look out the window." And as they're talking about this, the Featherhide comes back and slowly starts approaching them. And Tom realizes, okay, this might be a perfect opportunity to show what I mean. And he tells her to calm down and reach out gently. And she reaches out, and she's like her hand is like shaking as she's reaching out, until it stops shaking and something presses into it. The two eyes pop up again, like in front, as though like in her face. But then the rest of the dragon starts appearing, and the two kids are mesmerized by what they see. Actually, the two kids are mesmerized by the dragon that they see. Look at this thing.
You know, what's funny is when you first described only its eyes appearing, I imagined what they explained in that video where, you know, the two little roots in the back of your eyes?
Yeah?
I imagine those being present.
Yeah, no, it's just like the big yellow orbs with big ass pupils.
It's super cute. I love that.
Yeah, but imagine just those eyes floating in midair.
Mm-hmm.
That would be kind of creepy, not gonna lie.
It is kind of creepy, yeah.
Yeah, but now that we see the whole dragon, it's adorable.
It's a very adorable little dragon.
Yeah. So then, like, for the ending of the episode, they have to try and hide this Featherhide and get it out and help it out of Icarus. Alex manages to like calm the dragon down into like into staying invisible so that they can get it out. And then like they get to the elevator and it looks back at Alex, smiles at her because yes, this thing has figured out how to smile at this point. I mean, it already looks like it's smiling. Look at it.
Yeah, it does. Looks like Yoshi with feathers and bigger.
Yeah. So it goes. So after like showing its appreciation for Alex, it flies back into the crater towards the hidden world, turning invisible on the way. And that's when the alarm hits.
Mm-hmm.
This episode ends with another cliffhanger. There's an alarm. An alarm goes off, and all of the adults rush into the main hub of Project Icarus. The kids follow suit, and they see a map of the crater. And in the middle is a big red spot.
Uh-oh.
And here's where we get into the season finale. Episode 6, Muspelheim.
Alright.
Muspelheim is the realm of fire and the home of the giant Surtur. Now, in the original show, the final boss dragon that shows up is a dragon called the Fault Ripper.
The Fault Ripper?
Yeah. It's just this big dragon that can dig holes. It's kind of underwhelming. So,
Oh, okay.
given that I've changed the setting from a fissure from a crack in the ground to a hole in the ground, I don't think the Fall Ripper is a good fit for this story anymore.
Mm.
So what I did is I replaced it with a brand new dragon.
You made your own dragon for this?
Yes.
Ooh.
So,
You
episode 6 starts. The season finale starts, and we reveal what that big red spot on the map was. It's an area where the temperature is rising concerningly high. And the kids realize, okay, whatever's putting... Alex puts it together, because she's, like, the smart one. She's like, okay, you guys told me about the burn mark on the dragon. Okay. I just check. Okay. So I'm just checking if they can hear that. Whatever. Well, I'll cut that part out of the video. So Alex surmises that, given what Tom told her about the scorch mark, there's only one thing that could be happening here. Whatever dragon it was that shot Plowhorn's wing is the dragon that is currently that is able to cause this sudden heat wave.
Oh.
So, and I should mention that distortion that we saw, that's another burn mark on the Featherhide's tail.
Oh! This thing got into a fight with it too, or it got attacked.
Yeah.
This dragon's out for blood.
Oh, yeah, like you wouldn't believe. So, by the way, I should mention, they named the Featherhide Copycat in this version. Because
What did they name it in the original?
They named it Feathers.
That is such a creative name. They were
I know, right? I know,
They
right?
were on Cheeto powder for that name. I missed the name. They called it Cheeto powder.
No. I thought that was intentional. Like, because we called the other one Dorito powder.
You know what? It works.
Yeah.
Failed successfully. Mission failed successfully.
Yeah, pretty much. So, the kids decide, okay, now would be a chance to see what it is that did this. So, they go straight to the entrance to the hidden world, where their dragons, like, meet them there. Now, what's interesting is, throughout this first season, they're wearing, like, jackets, because it's kind of cold out.
Mm-hmm.
However, as they're going towards the middle of the crater, they have to take off their jackets because it's getting just that warm.
Oh, it's nearby, isn't it?
So they hop on the dragons, and that's the Mist Twister, which we still need that name for commenters. Plowhorn and Copycat. Thor isn't there; he's just chilling in his cave.
Mm-hmm.
So they go down into the hidden world, and they see that there's a huge flock of dragons trying to fly away from something. And they look to where the dragons are flying from, and they see this big cave entrance. It's like this big dark cave entrance, and the only light in the cave is this like orange glow coming from the back. It's sort of like in Fellowship of the Ring when they see the Balrog approaching, and they have that like big orange light coming in from the distance.
Oh.
It's sort of like that. This is when Tom pulls out the Book of Dragons and finally shows us those hidden pages.
Oh boy.
The first page is a warning with the words, if you remember, some of the fans of How to Train Your Dragon that are watching this will remember, I don't know if you will, But the words on this warning are extremely dangerous, kill on sight.
Oh no! Yes, I recognize those words.
So, they open that section, and they see the most dangerous, untamable dragons from this series. Like, they see the Red Death, the Screaming Death, like, the Death Grippers from the third movie. And as the dragon in the cave gets closer, they eventually come with a match. And right as they find out what this dragon's name is, it pokes its head out of the cave. This is the Blaze Rainer.
The Blaze Rainer? Oh my god!
Yeah.
This is straight out of a horror game. What?
Not to mention, it's gargantuan.
Oh nah.
Like, this thing is Red Death sized.
Oh my god.
Like, lengthwise, it's the same size as the Red Death, but its proportions are wider. So it's technically bigger than the Red Death. But I don't know if it would be bigger than the Bewilderbeast, which is considered like the largest dragon in the series, as far as I know, at least. So this thing, the reason why the heat is rising so much is because the Blaze Rainer is essentially like a living furnace. As long as this thing is awake, it is generating heat from its body at an uncontrollable rate. As long as it's in an enclosed area, that heat is going to build. So, like, the reason why we saw that orange glow coming from the cave is the heat from its body was melting the walls of the cave.
Oh my god.
Yeah, the Blaze Rainer is intentionally terrifying. And now we get to see where it gets its name. Because it looks at the flock of dragons that's flying away, it rears back, and starts firing its projectiles. Now, the Blaze Rainer's projectiles, a look at them, and you might think that this thing is Boulder class, because they're like a compound made out of a superheated material that's fired as like a bomb.
Mm-hmm.
However, this is a Stoker class dragon. This thing is just like heat incarnate. And those projectiles that it's firing are made of molten metal that it's consumed.
Metal, not stones?
Metal.
Oh.
And it's firing these out like the freaking, like, if you've ever heard of a Hwacha. Like those, like...
No, I haven't.
The thing that the Hailfire droids from Star Wars are based on. Those things that, like, fire, like, a ton of arrows at once. Like, a ton of arrows on fireworks at once.
Mm-hmm.
That's the rate at which this thing is firing these molten metal blasts.
Ooh, that's so cool, but it's also so
they're raining down like a hail of fireballs. Hence the name Blaze Rainer. Now, this rain of fireballs ends up hitting a stray Typhoomerang. It hits it in a couple places. And this is when they realize, okay, this is the dragon that hurt Plowhorn's wing. This is the dragon that scared Copycat out of the Hidden World. Because they see that Typhoomerang has those same scorch marks that were on Plowhorn and Copycat all over its body now. Because it got hit with a bunch of them. Like, at this point, this thing is, like, crippled on the ground, barely able to move. It got, like, blasted all over with molten metal balls. So, and as they start to realize, okay, we cannot allow this dragon to escape. This is they come to that realization. The Blaze Rainer drags its jaws along the ground, scoops up the Typhoomerang along with the ground it's laying on, and swallows it whole.
What? Okay.
Granted, we did. If you think that's too much, we saw the Red Death do this exact same thing with a
To a
Gronkle.
Bronco. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. I'm calling back to it in that regard. Except this thing is arguably even more malicious than the Red Death.
And more terrifying.
Yeah.
Like,
So this is when-
even with the color scheme.
This is
Oh,
when they
sorry.
come up with a plan. They're gonna have June and D'Angelo hold off the Blaze Rainer for now, while Alex takes Tom back up to the surface so they can get Thor down here to fight the Blaze Rainer.
Alright.
Because if anything stands a chance against this thing, it's Thor. So they do that, and June tries to take point in attacking the Blaze Rainer, but the fire breath does not affect the Blaze Rainer at all. It doesn't even notice. And when it tries to blast the freezing water, the water evaporates before it even touches it.
Wow.
That should tell you how hot it's getting in that cave.
hmm
So then D'Angelo's like, okay, let me try. And then Plowhorn fires a Geoblast at it, and that finally gets its attention.
Uh-oh.
So now they have to avoid its attacks and keep it from trying to escape. Because this thing is gonna try to get to the surface to not cook itself alive underground. So meanwhile, we cut back to Tom and Alex as they're getting back to the surface. They get to the cave with... Leo, ani menasera klitpo. I'm trying to record. So they get back to they get to the cave and they find Thor there, and Copycat decides to hide at the moment she sees Thor. And as Thor gets closer, suddenly a bolt of electricity just randomly flies off his body, hits Copycat, and forces her out of camouflage.
Oh.
Copycat runs off in fear, and Alex chases after her. And this is the point that I'm going to pick up on in Vanaheim Season 2. In Vanaheim
okay.
Episode Part 2. But for now we see that June and D'Angelo are really struggling to keep the attention of the Blaze Rainer. Like it's trying to swipe at them out of the air with those big ass claws, and it tries to bite at them, and when that fails, it tries to blast them out of the air with Hellfire. And while they're initially able to evade the blasts, the Mist Twister, being a Tidal class dragon, doesn't do so well with heat. It starts to slow down because it's getting dried up from the heat. And then a fireball hits it in the wing.
Oh.
The Mist Twister falls to the ground, and the Blaze Rainer goes to try and swallow them whole again. And June's just there watching this gaping maw coming straight towards her.
Horrifying.
Yeah. But then D'Angelo saves her by shooting the Blaze Rainer in the eye. And then you see those little that little circle next to its eye in the picture here.
Mm-hmm.
That's a second pair of eyes that it opens after that.
Oh my god.
Yeah, another subtle callback to the Red Death that had 6 eyes.
Yeah. Oh my god. This is...
Yeah, and now while D'Angelo is fighting the Blaze Rainer, in comes Alex. And Alex and Copycat Copycat can use that like sound mimicking ability and turn it into like a sonic screech, sort of like a thunder drum. And it uses that to like disorient the Blaze Rainer. But as they're attacking it, the Blaze Rainer looks up and sees the exit to the hidden world behind Alex. And it sees that and immediately stops what it's doing and runs straight for the exit.
Oh no.
Like, they try to slow it down with their projectiles, but they just can't. This thing just starts to like dig through the hole to like push its way out of the ground. And eventually it gets out. It bursts out of the middle of the crater and roars into the sky in view of everyone at Project Icarus.
Oh no. Oh my god.
So yeah, the adults are aware of the dragons now.
Yeah, in the worst way possible.
Yeah. So at this point, you're wondering, where the hell are Tom and Thor? And you see that like Tom has been like trying to convince Thor to like go down into the hidden world, and like he's like Thor is not interested in going down there at all. But then he sees the Blaze Rainer pop out of the ground, and he's like, okay, that thing dies now.
Oh boy.
Thor lets Tom hop on, and they go off to fight the Blaze Rainer. Now, Thor is using his plasma blasts, and these are actually like able to like knock the Blaze Rainer around a little bit, but they're not doing much damage. What they're trying to do is they're trying to keep the Blaze Rainer from noticing Project Icarus in the distance and going after all those delicious little meat snacks. But eventually, the Blaze Rainer starts to get pissed off. So, you see those gray bits on those bigger arms.
Mm-hmm.
That's metal that it had blasted onto its limbs to hold down one thing in particular in order to allow it to move better underground. What do you think it is that metal is hiding?
Like thorns, maybe?
Nope.
Not thorns.
They're holding down the membranes of its wings.
Oh!
So now the Blaze Rainer gets so mad that it blasts off that metal and unveils its wings and follows Thor into the air. And you're gonna see the Blaze Rainer's wings in a bit, but we'll get to that in a bit. So for now, the Blaze Rainer has followed Tom and Thor into the air and is like trying to blast them. So Tom tries to like think of a solution, like, oh my god, how are we gonna beat this thing? And then he looks up at the sky. It's a cloudy day today, and Tom gets the idea to have Thor fly into the clouds. The Blaze Rainer follows them, and then just as it looks like he's about to hit him, Thor does that thing that Light Furies do, where they shoot the fireball ahead of them and fly through it to turn invisible. So Thor can still do that. Thor's species can do that. And he goes invisible for a little bit and loses the Blaze Rainer in the clouds. Now, this is sounding a lot... I know that this is sounding a lot like how Hiccup and fighting the Red Death, but trust me, the conclusion is very different. So, while they've got the element of surprise, Tom tells Thor that it might be better if he tries to use his lightning to attack the Blaze Rainer.
Mm-hmm.
And Thor gets this look on his face like, oh, I was hoping he wouldn't say that. And we'll see why that is in a bit. But Thor ultimately does end up using lightning to strike the Blaze Rainer. And the lightning is really effective. And now we see that the lightning is leaving the same scorch marks on the Blaze Rainer as the Blaze Rainer's fireballs had left on its victims.
Revenge!
Yeah. But they're not quite hurting it enough, as Tom can tell. Because at this point, like, they know that there's no leaving this dragon alive.
Mm-hmm.
So Tom is like, maybe if you turn up the voltage, and then Thor just stares at him like, seriously, dude, do you not realize what's gonna happen? And Tom, he doesn't know what's going on. Like, why? Like, this is a hyper-aggressive dragon. Why is it refusing to be more effective in combat? But then Tom looks down at his hands, and his hands are also covered in scorch marks.
Oh.
Tom is getting affected by Thor's lightning about as much as the Blaze Rainer is.
Oh.
Thor throughout this season has grown a soft spot for Tom. Like, sure, he trusts him enough to take him into battle, but he doesn't want to hurt him. And if he was to put out enough power to kill the Blaze Rainer, it would absolutely kill Tom as well.
Oh.
Excuse me. So, what ends up happening is Tom comes up with the idea to have Thor fly higher above the clouds. And once they're there, Tom tells Thor to just let loose. And then he jumps off.
Oh my... When you said when he goes into the clouds, I kind of was looking for that. Like, is he going to jump off of Thor?
Yes, he is.
Oh my god.
He jumps off. Thor, like, doesn't understand what's going on at first, tries to catch him, then like, he realizes, oh, that's what we're gonna do. And he starts charging electricity in his body, and builds up more of it than he had ever done previously, even when he was attacking the Blaze Rainer before. Like, he starts building up so much electricity that you see lightning bolts arc towards him from the clouds beneath him. And, like, eventually he starts glowing with electricity. And at this point, the Blaze Rainer can see that shit. And the Blaze Rainer is thoroughly pissed at Thor at this point. Excuse me. The Blaze Rainer is thoroughly pissed at Thor at this point, and it flies up towards him. And it starts to like charge up like another volley of molten metal in its mouth. And this is the last shot. This is the last shot we see right before Thor lets loose. And yes, that's what the Blaze Rainer's wings look like.
Oh my god. Dude. Holy shit.
The lightning strike that Thor ends up letting loose is so powerful that is so bright that you can see it from the ground below. And it's so powerful that it kills the Blaze Rainer instantly.
Oh my god.
And like it hits him right in the head as well.
Okay, yeah, that's extremely freaking powerful.
Yeah. Then the Blaze Rainer like starts to fall down, and then Thor swoops down as well. But he's not going after the Blaze Rainer. He's going after Tom, who's still falling towards the ground.
Mm.
Right before they hit the ground, Thor managed to just narrowly catch his idiot human.
This idiot human. The human belongs to him.
Yeah. And they, like, the other kids had, like, come up to the surface to see the fight between Thor and the Blaze Rainer. And they see the Blaze Rainer, like, crashing back into the hole that it made. And the last bits of the heat melting the stone so that it seals the entrance to the hidden world.
Mm.
And Tom and Thor fly back down, reunite with the kids, and then they realize, wait a minute, the entrance to the hidden world is sealed, but our dragons are still up here. Oh, I know, maybe they can just chill out in the cave with Thor. Everyone's on board with it, except for Copycat and Thor. Copycat because, because she's scared of Thor, and Thor because, god damn it, I moved to this cave to get away from all these dragons.
That's fun.
Fine, I guess I'll indulge you, Humans are so stupid sometimes, am I right? That's the attitude that Thor has over this.
I love Thor's attitude.
Yeah.
I love Thor's attitude.
And
It's fun.
this is where they finally come up with a species name for Thor.
All right,
They
here
end
it
up
is.
calling him a Storm Fury.
Storm Fury. Ooh. Okay, I like that.
Yeah, it fits though, doesn't it?
It does fit. It fits a lot.
Yeah. So then all the kids go home. The crisis seems to be averted. And Tom gets home, and Olivia wants to talk to him. So, I forgot to mention it, but in the first episode, the way that Olivia figured out where Tom went with the drone is because she's got access to security footage from Project Icarus.
Mm-hmm.
And she looked at when the Blaze Banner popped out of the ground. She went to try and find her son. So she looked at the security footage, and she saw that he had gone into the crater again multiple times. And she realizes, okay, he knows something about this. And the season ends with her telling him, I want you to tell me everything you've learned about the dragons. Cut to black.
Oh my god, that was
That's
great.
the end of the season.
Very nice.
Yeah. Is there anything that you would want that you would think could be improved with this? I do want honest feedback on this.
I did have something I wanted to say earlier, but I forgot. Perhaps maybe when it comes back to me, you could edit that into the original footage or something.
Sure. But anyway, that was my rewrite for season 1 of Dragons of the Nine Realms. If you guys like this video, then obviously leave a like. But let me know if you'd like to see a continuation of this, because I do have ideas for where the story would go from here. Because given everything that happened in this version of season 1, the story would not be the same as in the original season 2. It's just gone in too different a direction compared to the original Nine Realms season 1. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you want to see more. Yes, there will be more of this format. This will be how we discuss writing on my channel. And there might be some more guests from Sasquatch Productions coming on, or even from other YouTube channels, if that ends up happening. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you whenever my next project ends up happening.
And as might I.
Alright, have a nice day!